Chapter 4. Emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence, also referred to as emotional leadership or emotional quotient, is the ability of certain people to realize their emotions, as well as those of others, differentiate them, label, and readily manage or adjust depending on the situation or environment. These people typically remain calm despite the changes in the surrounding or negative impacts associated with a given case. Besides, they may apply the capability to help those affected by awkward feelings, therefore, making them feel at peace. Emotional intelligence is psychological, where one understands and handles any kind of emotion with ease while remaining calm. Over the years, the definition of emotional intelligence was broken down into 4 sections: perceiving, utilizing, learning, and managing. The 4 abilities were all attributed to emotional intelligence with relative meanings behind them. Different models were created using these abilities, therefore, facilitating how thoughts and understanding of emotions interact. Studies show that people with more emotional intelligence tend to succeed more in various areas, including academics, careers, and talents. The ability has also been associated with providing great leadership and higher performance at work. More so, researchers agree that these people are healthy mentally as well as on their standard personality traits. Since the introduction of emotional intelligence, different studies have been conducted with the objective of determining the actual factors driving an individual to manage emotions. Most of us react to varying feelings to some extent, depending on the severity or fun in it. However, higher emotional intelligence people have the ability to manage these emotions and have a minimal impact on their lives, even on extensive influences of a situation. With different groups of people, emotional intelligence has been seen to have different implications on the thoughts of these individuals. For instance, children and teens with high emotional intelligence tend to have good social interaction, while those having lower abilities have the opposite. Adults with high emotional intelligence accompany an excellent self-perception socially, while those with low emotional intelligence tend to become aggressive. Features of emotional intelligence show of authenticity. High emotional intelligence people, especially those who are more social, tend to stick to their principles and values. When sharing about themselves to others, they usually stand by their boundaries rather than sharing everything about themselves to others. As such, authenticity does not imply that you have to share all about yourself. However, you share about yourself to people who matter and those who understand you and appreciate your thoughts and feelings.
Demonstration of empathy. These individuals tend to demonstrate empathy to people as they readily understand other people's feelings and thoughts. They, therefore, readily connect to others and agree on what is essential. Emotional intelligence enables them to develop more profound and more productive relationships with others. Instead of becoming judgmental and avoiding those who feel different, they comfort and make them feel important to society. Despite being empathetic, these people are cautious when it comes to decision-making, therefore avoiding agreeing to every person's motive. Apologetic and forgiving. Another feature of emotional intelligence people is that they quickly understand their mistakes. They usually have the courage and strength to apologize even without errors, therefore indicating value to a relationship. The same applies to forgive and forget, even in the most resentful situations. As such, having emotional intelligence provides a mind that readily forgives and free from your emotions from those who hurt you. Being helpful, as emotional intelligence entails understanding and managing your emotions and that of others, then helping them becomes part of what the ability accompanies. As one of the most significant rewards to others, helping becomes a habit to these people, and they never tire or discriminate against others. However, they help each person in need without asking too many questions. As such, it helps those who follow similar footsteps as well as building trust among people to help others. Always thinking about feelings. Emotional intelligence primarily dwells on one's feelings, which often change suddenly or slowly depending on the situation or environment. When an individual has a higher emotional intelligence capability, then he or she frequently thinks about different feelings and how it may impact others. They usually ask about common questions regarding their self-awareness, reflecting on everyday activities and people who may be influenced by their emotions. As such, systematic thinking and learning about emotions provide insights used to their advantage in managing their feelings and that of others. Benefit from criticism. Nobody experiences fun when it comes to negative feedback, especially from people you trust and those close to you. However, these types of reputation are quite effective in life as they teach you a few lessons about a particular aspect. Besides, it enables you to learn more about how others think, mainly about you, and things to change and become better in what you do. Receiving these negative feedbacks may become a challenge to others, but those with the ability to check their emotions benefit a lot. With the use of emotional intelligence, these people can learn to manage their emotions and move around calmly without focusing on the thoughts of others. Managing emotions. People with low emotional intelligence. When low emotional intelligence people are faced with any negative emotion, they tend to become violent or rather more reactive when compared to those with high emotional intelligence. For instance, when an individual with low emotional intelligence faces negative criticism, they may initially go into denial and withdraw from a given group to avoid shame. They become lonely and prevent any form of help offered towards them. In some cases, others may opt to use substances to keep their minds active and evade others and what they are feeling. Others may harm themselves by cutting, starving, purging, or engaging in dangerous behaviors. The primary drive to these activities is influenced by a lack of control of emotions which are usually hurting, such as criticism. People with high emotional intelligence. High emotional intelligence people have all it takes to absorb and express reasonably about how they feel about a particular sensation. For instance, when these group people are offended, they would initially pause before acting and think what their next word, or rather the best harmless action to take. They would also acknowledge what the next person is feeling or have in mind before deciding on providing their contribution or conclusion of what will become. Thinking first is usually their first step to prevent escalating the problem or causing more harm to themselves and others. Another critical aspect of high emotional intelligence people is helping themselves and people affected by a given emotion. In this case, high emotional intelligence people act entirely different when compared to low emotional intelligence individuals. Emotional quotient EQ versus intelligence quotient IQ. Emotional quotient EQ is the ability of an individual to readily learn, understand, handle, and control his or her emotions even in the most resentful situations. On the other hand, intelligence quotient IQ is the measure of one's intelligence usually expressed in a number. EQ enables an individual to focus on emotions which, in turn, acts as a management system to different emotions which may become harmful to others. More so, it involves other people's emotions, and an individual can readily manage these emotions without the need to sympathize. IQ measures the degree of intelligence calculated from standardized tests created to analyze human intelligence. Components of emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence is linked to different internal components of a person, usually within the brain, which determines how one understands and controls emotions. In most cases, people who lack control of their emotions have been associated with mental problems, while others stating that lack of emotional control is attributed to the extent of the immediate feeling at hand. However, emotional intelligence has been proven to exist among different individuals and comprises the following components. Self-awareness. This is the ability to recognize and learn about your emotions as well as understanding the effects accompanied by your feelings. Becoming self-aware is determined by being able to monitor emotions, realizing emotional reactions, and identifying each emotion independently. Besides, you readily understand and figure out the interaction between your emotions and how you behave when that feeling occurs. That is, when you are an emotionally intelligent individual, you become aware of several aspects about yourself and others while keeping in mind about what is wrong and right. You can readily make a choice to do wrong or wicked despite how sad, angry, or hopeless you become. Self-awareness also builds the ability to determine the strengths and limitations for quick development of measures to avoid negative impacts to an individual and to others. As a person, you can get access to new information and personal skills, therefore, you learn from others. People with a sense of self-awareness are usually humorous, confident, and aware of the perception of others. More so, they understand what it means to be emotional despite being an everyday behavior. As among the primary components of emotional intelligence, self-awareness provides a complete guide to an individual to quickly learn what to do when facing a given emotion, which may harm both them and another person when mishandled. Self-regulation, another significant component of emotional intelligence, is self-regulation, which entails the regulation and management of emotions. After becoming self-aware of your feelings and the accompanying impacts to others and yourself, you are required to have a governing force that enhances how you react during these situations. However, it does not imply that an individual has to lock away his or her real emotions and hide how they feel about others, but they should express them in an organized manner. That is, regulating how you express your feelings in an appropriate time and place. People skilled in self-regulation are mostly flexible and quickly adapt to change, as well as excellent in settling disagreements among people and diffusion of tension. More so, they are high in conscientiousness, thoughtful, and take responsibility for their doings. As a component of emotional intelligence, self-regulation plays a significant role in enabling an individual to quickly manage and handle all types of feelings, either positive or negative, without influencing others negatively. Social skills. Emotional intelligence also comprises of social skills, which are the ability to interact with others correctly. Learning about your feelings and that of others and being able to control is not enough to develop your emotional intelligence. Then, there is a need to implement these abilities into actions when interacting with others daily. When you indulge in daily communication with others and put into action this information, then you are at the forefront in managing your feelings and that of others. For example, managers and businesses have utilized the knowledge of social skills to interact with workers and clients, thus benefiting significantly in their careers. Empathy is the capability of comprehending other individuals' feelings. It is also vital to emotional intelligence, but provides more insight to an individual rather than recognizing the emotions of others. Empathy involves realizing emotions as well as reactions to these emotions, which primarily encompasses the help needed. For example, if someone is hopeless, sad, or emotional dependent, you are likely to sense these emotions and respond accordingly as if they are yours. You tend to provide extra care and concern, allowing other people to recognize power dynamics that influence relationships. Therefore, emotional intelligence enables you to become empathetic to others and give the needed support. Intrinsic motivation. Unlike others, people with emotional intelligence abilities are rarely motivated by external rewards, for example, richness, fame, or acclaim. These people usually work to meet their personal needs and objectives. They seek to ensure their internal satisfaction, which in turn leads to rewarding their inner needs. Such individuals remain action-oriented by creating goals that are of higher standards and work to achieve. Also, they remain committed to performing their duties entirely when needed without failure. As such, the motivation allows for the achievement of essential goals in nearly everything they engage in, no matter the complexity of the situation. More emotional people tend to have low emotional intelligence and therefore become very reactive, especially on negative emotions. In this case, these people usually lack self-awareness, self-regulation, and other components of emotional intelligence. When someone is regarded as a more sensitive person, the chances are that they may become very reactive on occasions such as anger and become violent. When sad, they may end up becoming stressed, lonely, and eventually being depressed. This group of people may, however, have some.
More emotional people may, at times, face difficulties on how they interact publicly, henceforth, cannot sustain relationships. Some of the characteristic features of more emotional people include the inability to understand other people's emotions. getting into arguments quickly, blaming others for their mistakes, and lack of empathy. Other features include difficulty sustaining friends, sudden outbursts of emotions, refusal to listen to others' views, and thinking people are usually oversensitive. More emotional people typically have no control over how they express their feelings or emotions. Therefore, they become dependent on themselves without minding others. Less emotional people are those individuals with the ability to control their emotions or feelings, even when they are profound or negative. These individuals usually have a much higher emotional intelligence. When compared to more emotional people, as highlighted above, less emotional people have the ability to suppress their emotions even in the states where these emotions seem unbearable. They may look calm and in peace even after a hurtful event. More so, they are relaxed and understanding and interact well with the general public, mainly with friends, family, and those close to them, such as co-workers. When in an emotional state, for instance, these individuals typically respond to issues rather than react and understand the matter at hand. They are equipped with the 5 components of emotional intelligence as well as self-control, and handle situations with their related selves. When faced with a more challenging situation, less emotional people rarely complain but work to find ways of solving the problem, which, in most cases, succeed with limited failure possibilities. As typical human beings, however, less emotional people also undergo similar impacts of negative emotions, but due to their emotional intelligence abilities, they readily get in control of their feelings and find ways to handle these situations without causing scenes. Emotional intelligence history. Emotional intelligence, the ability to control emotions, originally began in 1964, where Michael Beldick wrote the term emotional intelligence in the paper. In 1966, another article by B. Lunar, Emotional Intelligence and Emancipation, also featured the term emotional intelligence. Howard Gardner again mentioned the term in 1983 with an effort to describe IQ and other related types of intelligence. In this case, Gardner stated that various kinds of human IQ at the time failed to detail cognitive ability, which, henceforth, introduced emotional intelligence in his study. Subsequently, the term began being used in multiple papers, journals, and theses such as A Study of Emotions, Developing Emotional Intelligence, written by Wayne Payne in 1985. The term emotional quotient, EQ, surfaced in 1987 in an article written by Keith Beasley, which introduced a similar meaning to emotional intelligence. In the late 1980s, different models emerged to prove emotional intelligence in the context of controlling human feelings. Among them include the one created by Stanley Greenspan in 1989, another by Peter Salovey and John Mayer in 1990. The term began becoming among the most commonly used. In 1995, the book, Emotional Intelligence, Why It See and Matter More Tihan IQ by Goleman, was published. As such, the term became more popular in the 1990s, with several models being developed by different scientists. However, emotional intelligence, like most findings, has received several critics, especially on its role in the business sector and the development of leadership skills. More advanced research in emotional intelligence entails the trait and ability of emotional intelligence. Trait emotional intelligence remains considered as a generic behavior passed from parents to offspring. Ability emotional intelligence is the practice learned by an individual, henceforth, gaining the technique of controlling their own emotions.